and welcome to I'm the Mama podcast. I'm your host, Ashley L., where we discuss the ins, the outs, and everything in between of being a mom. All right. So I come before you today. I know it's a little different. Y'all are seeing me normally every 2 weeks, but there is something that's near and dear that has been a concern of mine for the past couple of days. And so, first and foremost, I want to thank my beautiful guests that you see here today. These ladies have come on with us as we discuss the tragedy as well as our feelings from the tragedy that took place this past Tuesday. Now, for those that may or may not be aware, this past Tuesday in Texas, there was a elementary school shooting. I like to call it a massacre because that's technically what it was, where an 18-year-old went into the school and he shot 19 kids, killed 19 kids, as well as 2 teachers. And so, I mean, it's not like this is the first time that this has happened, right? But this is the first time since I've had a child, and it affects me regardless, but I feel like it's affecting me even more now that I have a child. And so again, I want to thank you ladies for taking the time out to come and speak with me, as I like to call this let's see, I'm going to call this Let Mama Speak, because this is going to be an open platform where we just have a discussion about what's taking place. And so again, thank you ladies for joining and taking out your time this evening as we discuss this. Now, again, to me, this situation was not okay. And I'm sure nobody would come out and sit up here and say, yeah, it wasn't that bad or whatever, but it's not okay. And, I'm not one to judge anyone, but these were babies that were taken away from their parents. They were taken away from their families, and actually not just the babies, the teachers as well. They were taken away from their families. They were taken away from their friends. They were taken away from their community, and by a senseless murder, And so I just want to kind of start off the conversation because I think we all kind of found out social media doesn't keep anything quiet. So ladies, let's start off. How did you feel when you found out about this situation? Like, what was the first thing that struck up in your mind?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I felt emotional. Not again. As a parent, it breaks my heart because it's like, what can I do? It's like the government is not doing anything. What can I do to help? And I really don't know what to do. I don't. I don't. I'm just very emotional right now.
I feel you. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I know, Tierra, you have something to say as well. Is like, again, here we are. This isn't the first one. But what can I do? Like, it's to the point where we can't even trust the system. Mm-hmm. So what can I do to make sure that I'm protecting these babies, protecting my child? Right. Go ahead, Tierra. I know you had something to say.
I was going to say it was very heartbreaking. And I was very, I don't want to say alarmed because that's not the right terminology to use right now. But I mean, I'm still emotional from it. It's emotional. It really is. With me, I had one son who graduated. I have older children as well, but I have one son who just graduated 5th grade today. And, I was just thinking about him going to middle school. And as you said previously, the world, it's a different world out there now. Yeah. And me being that mama bear, you want to protect your babies. I have one that's actually going to be going into pre-K in the elementary school, which, sorry, because he just ran in the room. Sorry about that. But, it's like, I'm my headspace is telling me, pull my kids out and homeschool them. But then I know that I don't think that's really fair to them because they're not going to then get that, I wouldn't say education, but they're not going to have that social life that we all used to love to go to school to meet with our friends. But now it's scary. It really is. It's really scary when, definitely I keep my kids prayed up, pray over them every morning before they leave. But it's just like the fact of now wondering, okay, is he going to come back? Like, you don't want to think like that. But that thought is in my head, like, okay, will I see him will he come back? And the main thing I was thinking about is, how did this happen? Because I know even when I go to my son's school, it's so many security measures that you actually can't even get into the school. So I'm just like, how did that even happen? And again, we never will know the answer how, but it's just, why? Like, it's very sorry.
Yeah. I know for me, I was really, really emotional. I actually got like a little knot in my stomach, once I originally got the news that day. And I automatically started thinking of my nieces, they're in elementary school. And I'm just like, why weren't the doors locked? There used to be, I know for me back in a few years ago, where they would actually lock the doors for our school. I'm in college right now, continuing education, and my professors, they definitely lock the doors each and every time. So I'm just curious as to why they haven't implemented that in that elementary school or all schools, period. So, it's concerning.
So that's interesting that you say that, because I remember when I was in school as well, which we're not going to get to how long ago that was,
Right.
but every door except for the main entrance that took you to the administration office, every single door was locked. And so again, we don't know the depths of how this young man got into the school, but obviously there's something that's missing. There's something that's missing in regards to the security measures, which in this case, to me, just needs to be tighter for all schools. But even in regards to that, Tiara, you said something that honestly, since this situation has been in my mind, because my son's only one, so we have time. But that was one thing that came to my mind as well. Like, okay, with all of this that keeps taking place, we literally just dealt with the tragedy last week in Buffalo, and now this, like, I have to protect my son at all costs. And by that time, if things have not changed, I don't care about the social. He has plenty of friends. He has plenty of friends that we will make sure that he gets with his friends. He gets with his family. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is making sure, like you said, at the end of the day, I don't have to worry and knowing that my son is going to be coming home because he's safe. So I know that was one thing, like, do I not put him in school? But he can still get that social experience. We can make sure of that. So that's been something that's been toggling in my mind, in all honesty. So, Alicia, you did bring up, even another measure in regards to that. So the safetyness of the schools, again, we don't know exactly what happened there during that time, but, what are some safety measures that you may not see that you will want implemented after such a situation as this?
I think for me, I do have a child. She will be starting pre-K this coming fall, and also year-old myself. But I think for me, why not have someone walking down the halls every few minutes? Just kind of taking those precautions to make sure, that people aren't just allowed to just come in and roam. I know that some schools actually, they will lock their doors, but you have to like ring like a little, I don't know, a ring or something. And so, to alert people that someone's at the door. But I do feel like, they should take those measures into implementing something to where, let's do a walkthrough every 15 minutes or, something of that measure. Cause, it's sad that it's at that point, but, we have to do something.
So Jamie, what do you think? Because I know your son is actually in an elite, like a charter program. Are there any measures that you see that, may differ from public schools? Or if not, what are some measures that you would like to see implemented in his school?
So at his school, his doors are locked. So before you can even get in, you have to show your ID. Well, they speak through the microphone and they ask who you're here for. And then you got to pull out your ID and then they'll let you in. It's crazy. All the stuff that's good, but I feel like there's a disconnect in the kid, the shooter or whatever, the people that, that does. It needs to be more mental health things, because I can't even say, even if we walk the schools and lock the doors and do all, I just feel like it just needs I don't know.
It was definitely a mental health situation.
Because all this could have been avoided, because from my understanding, he posted stuff. Like a lot of this stuff could have been prevented. I think we as people need to start paying attention to the small things. Don't let's just brush things off.
Yeah.
But there also needs to be police officers at school at all times.
So that actually brings up, I'm glad you pointed out about the police officers. All right. Because I was thinking about that too. Like, maybe we need more enforcement. Because I'm not going to lie. When I was in school, our security officers, like, hey, we was tight. Look, they knew, Ashley, they be like, get your butt to class. Even in regards to like what you were saying, Alicia, like there was no roaming in the halls. The enforcement made sure that you were in your class. And if not, you're going to the office because you need to be in class. And so obviously you're where you're not supposed to be. You couldn't even go to the bathroom without somebody really watching you, making sure that you go to the bathroom and get your behind back in class. And so even with that, like, we were tight back then, but I know there's been a lot that has occurred even when it comes to the police force and the trust or the lack of trust in regards to the police force. So I feel like the kids also are experiencing that because they hear parents talking about it. That's one thing. Kids are always listening. And so they hear us kind of talking about, or they see on social media what's taking place with the police. So with them being a part of this, being implemented more into the school systems, do you feel like the kids would appreciate that? The parents would appreciate that? Or would they not trust it because of, Johnny's acting bad today? How do I know this police isn't going to act out and my son end up getting killed for just acting out on emotion for the day?
I would say, oh, sorry, go ahead. I would say, honestly, that could go either way. And I would say it really depends on the person and the family and, their dynamic and what they've experienced. Because, some cultures, don't trust the police. And then with all the police brutality and everything that has happened and went on, some people may see that and look at it as another threat. So it really just, I think it's depending on the dynamic of the family.
Yeah, I believe that. And I think it just is building that trust again. And it could actually start with getting them back into the school systems. I mean, I'm going to be one to say, I feel like prayer needs to get back into the schools because when we was younger, that was another big thing. Prayer was all in the schools. But in addition to that, building that trust, because again, if I was to see Officer Stanley, shout out to Officer Stanley, if I was to see him today, it's still that remembrance of how he made sure we were protected, but also the connection that he and I had. So I feel like as far as enforcement, building that trust within the community, getting into the schools, let kids get to know you, let them begin to build that trust with you so that as they get older, like we are, they will have more of a trust within the enforcement. So I definitely agree with you, Tierra, in regards to that. Do either of you other ladies have anything to say about that?
No, I think that it would be beneficial as far as the police enforcement. I guess trying to build that trust back with everyone, and you never know, it could definitely start with the kids. I think at this point in time, I can't speak for everyone, but I believe most parents are like, y'all need to do what y'all need to do. Like, roam halls, roam around the schools. I mean, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, but I would definitely be all in for that.
So another thing I was wondering is, something that another friend and I was kind of talking about. All right, picture this. How would you feel if teachers, if administration had protection in case of something like this took place, they were able to react? What is your thoughts on that? I'm not going to talk about my opinion, but I'll talk about mine after you all talk. But what is you all's take on that?
Me personally, I would say it would depend on the teacher because, again, mental health issues is really real out here, and dealing with children all day, every day, you never know when someone could just snap in a moment.
You better say it.
Yes, I would be more safe with the police officers being in the school versus the teacher being equipped with them, because then you never know, what if that teacher is negligent and leaves it unlocked and then another student gets to it. I think that would just bring up a whole nother serious issue. Then we will be talking about other things. I think, police officers need to go back into the schools.
Right. Yeah.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that as well, because again, the biggest thing I understand about the negligence, but the biggest thing that came to my mind is, again, kids are going to be kids. And we've seen some teachers that act out on kids, and with them having possession of something like that, we're going to be having this topic, this conversation again on a whole nother level. So it was like, I hear what my friend was saying when bringing that up, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think that wouldn't really help this situation to be able to do that. But okay, so let me ask y'all about this then. I was reading today, and a school out in Texas, it seems like a parent took the time out to go and speak with the administration and actually ask if he could watch the school. Now, this is a parent. This isn't an authority, anyone in enforcement, but he asked if he could watch the school. And so what took place is that morning, parents saw him. That afternoon, when they came up and picked up their kids, they saw him. And of course, they called the school, like, there's a man that's still standing out in front of the school. Is everything okay? They let the parents know he volunteered to watch the school for us. And of course, the parents were appreciative. So is that the steps that you all think that we're going to have to go as far as us getting involved more, just to make sure the protection of our kids?
I think so. I think parents are going to have to be more involved. But when doing this, I know I moved to Georgia from Florida. And even in Florida, before we could go on a field trip to be a chaperone, we had to do a thorough background check. So we had to do fingerprints. They literally sent everything through the police department to make sure not only were you not a sex offender, but if you didn't have any type of criminal background as well. So I wouldn't say just let any parent, because again, some parents are going to be like, okay, I want to go, I want to be able to protect my children. But at the same time, I think, other security measures as well. I mean, that's a great idea, but I think the proper protocol and security measures, even with background checks, need to be conducted.
Yeah. That's definitely a great approach. I didn't even think about it that way, but yeah, just making sure we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's.
Yes.
What about either of you, Jamie, Alicia? Did y'all have anything in regards to your feelings on that?
I would agree with her on that, simply because, it's like a ladder. There's different stages to different crimes. Mm-hmm. So we don't want the wrong kind of parents or people in general who are wanting to volunteer just to be around children when they probably be around children.
It's so sad that we have to think about so much.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Can I just go back to being a kid where none of this was even something that I had to think about? But I guess that comes with growth, right? You learn more and you're exposed to more at the same time. So I don't know about any of you ladies, but I know for myself, my husband and I have been thinking about, possibly having more kids in the future. But when it comes to that, again, when situations like this take place, I'm not going to lie. I think about bringing up another child. Of course, my son's already here, so I can't, do anything about that. But bringing up more kids, in this crazy world that we're in right now. What did you all's take, if any of you have that thought about possibly having more kids? What's your opinion on that? Did that change your mindset? Have you had any doubts about it? Let me know what you're thinking.
I mean, I know for me personally, everyone who knew me when I first had my first child, I was like, oh no, I'm one and done, for circumstances. But when I decided, or me and my husband decided to have our second child, these things definitely, crossed my mind, because we're living in some evil times, some evil days, last days. I don't want to get into religious aspects, but at the end of the day, like I tell my husband, I pray over my children day and night, randomly throughout the day, keep them covered, to keep my friends, babies covered, my family's children's covered. It's just something that we can't really control. And so when we don't have control, that's when you need to step in and just let God just take the wheel, and, just have faith,
Yeah.
that, just keep covered in prayer and walk in faith.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely want to have more kids, but you definitely got to pray of your kids, but also inform your kids. Watch your surroundings. Just be cautious of your surroundings. Know your exits. I personally have to talk to DJ, about this whole situation. Just know your exits. Know what's around you. Don't just be out there.
Yeah.
It's sad to say.
You made a good point there. It's just like now we're having to equip our children, our younger children, to basically prepare them for something that we would do in adulthood, watching your exits, knowing where the next place is going, versus letting them, when we were a child, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't think about none of that. I just went to school, want to have fun, want to play. And now it's like these kids have to really equip themselves, and they have to be on point. Not on, they have to be mentally on point to know, okay, so if something happens, am I going to say, go under a desk? Am I going to see where the next exit is? Am I close enough to a window to jump out of a window? So it's like so many things that they have to think about now, and it's just really
makes you even think twice as far as just bringing them out in public, period. Like running to the mall. I know everybody who knows me and my husband personally, they knows exactly how he is. He's always watching the exit signs and just different little things, always not being surrounded in a big crowd. But it makes me even paranoid. So like, I'm scared to bring my child to Walmart.
Yeah. No, that's real. And that's honestly something I was talking about with another friend as well. Is just like, I'm not even going to say we're finished with the pandemic, but we are just seeing the light from a pandemic. And now we are, some of us are thinking about, okay, I may need to keep my behind at home because I don't know what's going to take place when I go to the store, when I go to a restaurant, when I go to a school. And again, it's scary, just being transparent. It's scary to think about. I don't know what this person's mindset is. I don't want to be watching over my shoulder at all times. We're already watching when people cough, and now we're about to be watching while people are just in our surroundings and in our space, because we don't know what that moment could entail. Could this be the moment? And it's scary to even think about that. But I mean, I'm sure that's on a lot of people's mind right now, for sure. It's just crazy, crazy times. But Jamie, I know you even brought up, the fact of you having to talk to DJ in regards to the situation, and with him being a child, if you don't mind just kind of discussing, did you see any, did he understand what was going on? Was there any emotional, impact that you feel like, this placed on him, as well?
Well, when I actually had to talk to him, he was actually scared and started crying. But he definitely understands to watch out for his surroundings. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, again, just having to talk to a child about, again, things such as this, what took place. But it's important that he's hearing it from you, because if he doesn't, then he'll hear it from somebody at school or on social media and things like that. And so at least you're able to have that conversation with him, just to get those feelings, be able to gauge how he's feeling. Because again, as we kind of talked about for this other guy, the shooter himself, maybe somebody wasn't having conversations with him, and so it's great to just stay engaged or whatever. So I did, before we actually, wrap up things for the day, I did just kind of want to ask you ladies, what are some various, of course, we talked about the school systems. Of course, we talked about, the different ways that we feel like the school system could make things a little bit better. But as a society, as the United States, because honestly, if you look at a graph, to see what other countries, the minimal suicides, the minimal homicides that they have going on compared to the United States, which was super long. I would like to say almost 100 times more than these other countries. What are some things that you all think that we could do as a society, as a nation, to make things better?
I would say have more support groups for children, to allow the children to be heard. I was actually walking out of Publix the other day, and there was a young lady and another gentleman. They were from an organization, and they were actually taking donations outside for childhood suicide. And I did not, when she stopped me and she was speaking to me, I did not realize how the rate has went up of early childhood. When I'm saying childhood, I mean elementary school students who are actually committing suicide.
Yeah.
And that was, whether it's from bullying, cyberbullying has gotten really bad now. And it's just really, and again, I don't want to use the word alarming. It's just, it really saddens me, because as a parent, you want to know, okay, where can we go with this? And then sometimes when you go and you want to talk to the schools and talk to the school systems, they have so much that they are actually dealing with on their plate as well. Sometimes the parent's voice does go unheard. So I think, more parents will get together and do, maybe support groups or even organizations that will actually start, going into the schools, having, I know before when I was younger, they had, the big sisters and big brothers, something like that. If they could just do something to go into the schools, because again, the kids are actually hurting. Even like you just mentioned earlier, Ashley, we came off of a pandemic. I know that the childhood suicide rate went up during the pandemic because kids didn't know how to cope.
Yeah.
And it's just, these are hard conversations that need to be had, but they need to be had.
What about you, Jay?
Definitely the support groups. Definitely need to hear from the kids, because you never know like what's going on through their mind unless they are heard. I don't know. It's just yeah.
I feel, in my opinion, like for me personally, or, as parents, we know our children. We know when they're having up days, having down days. I think that the parents or whomever it is that's raising some of these children, teenagers, older adults, sometimes that are still living at home, just being aware of their moods, like, hey, what's going on today? You know what I'm saying? Having these little talks. I know when my child is out of pocket, so, I think it's important that, we recognize, these signs. I think earlier today, I saw an interview of the grandfather of that guy who shot those children and the teacher. And he said that he had no idea that, his son or his grandson even purchased those guns, and that, he wasn't aware of how he was feeling. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lack of engagement with these kids and their parents or whomever it is that is raising them. So I feel like that could be beneficial in a way,
Yeah.
Also, maybe more of the counselors being more involved at the schools. I feel like that would help a lot.
Yeah.
And also, even when this whole thing, they said something about he wasn't attending school. Where was the social worker? I remember, up in Gwinnett County, if you don't go to school for a certain amount of days, a social worker is coming up and you are getting locked up. I'm just curious to know.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's some great call outs, because again, back in the day, we had to meet with our counselors kind of on a regular. I would say it was at least once a semester that we had at my school to meet with our counselor. Like, your counselor was kind of like your friend, your homegirl, your homeboy, that you feel comfortable. If they see you in the hall, they're going to give you a high five, see how your day is going. But also, if something is going on, for you to be comfortable coming to talk to them. So I definitely, like you said, Jamie, the counselor is getting involved again. But even in addition to that, like all three of you all said, is the parents getting more involved? Don't be so quick just to allow your child to do and go everywhere. Like, talk to them, have a conversation, find out how their day is. Don't just accept it's going good, it was okay. Like, no, tell me how your day was. So that way, as your child gets older, of course, we all went through it and we're all still going through it. We have changes that take place in our lives. We change. And so that way you can recognize those changes and be able to steer those conversations differently so that your child still feels comfortable speaking to you. But, hey, this is just, letting the mama speak. This is how we feel. But that's just going to wrap up for today. I thank each and every one of you ladies for taking out the time to just give your opinion on the show of I'm the Mama podcast. For all of you listening, be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, and comment, as this content could be helpful to somebody else, or it could be something that they've been talking about with you as well. And so if they may be aligned with us, and if not, then again, as the comments, I would love to hear about what your opinions are with what we discussed today. Now, before we get off, of course, I have to end with the inspirational quote of the day for the mamas. So mamas, I want you to know that you are braver than you believe, you're stronger than you seem, you're smarter than you think, and love more than you'll ever know. And that's by A.A. Milne. I'm sorry. And so, again, continue to be great, mamas. I mean, again, this is such a tragedy. I just can't even imagine what those families are going through. But at the end of the day, I think we all held our child a little bit tighter. We kissed them a little bit longer. And so don't let it always just take place when something happens. Do this on a regular occurrence with your child so that they know how much your mama, daddy, how much their family loves and appreciates them. And this kind of goes hand in hand. So the next topic that we are going to be discussing is based off of postpartum depression and mental health. And so this goes right into that topic. So be sure to tune in. And again, when you subscribe, you'll be able to stay up to date on all of the updated content. I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And as always, keep your head up, because know that your children are watching you and they're admiring you. And so keep the grind, keep it going, keep the love. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Have a great evening.
Bye.